Welcome to Autotown. From the factory floor to the C-suite to the dealership lot, everyone is welcome in Autotown, a place to go for insights and analysis of what's happening in the auto industry. I'm your host, Jamie Butters. Hey, I'm Jamie Butters. It's my honor to welcome you back to Autotown. We're recording this on June 8th, 2026. Autotown is brought to you in part by Aumovio, a global top-tier auto supplier. Autotown is your place for insights about the auto industry, representing all of its constituents. From the factory floor to the C-suite to the dealership lot, everyone is welcome in Autotown. Riding shotgun with me today is Greg Migliore, a freelance journalist and former editor-in-chief of Autoblog. Greg, welcome to Autotown.
Jamie, it is great to be here, ready to talk some cars and the car business.
So glad to have you. We've been friends for a long time. It's great to have you here in Autotown, one of our first citizens. A little later, we're going to stop at the coffee shop for a chat with Damon Lester, the author, speaker, and former dealer principal, about his journey through the retail world. But first, Greg and I are going to take a quick drive around the block. Greg, auto sales in China fell 22% in May. That's an 8th straight decline, according to Reuters. Here's the thing. This is why China is such a threat to the world. China's industry has so much more capacity than it needs, and demand is falling. So the oversupply keeps widening. And to me, this is a problem because it means Chinese automakers need to go to other markets, foreign markets, to unload the vehicles they can't sell at home. But it also means that global automakers like VW and GM and everyone else, they're losing sales in China, and they need to look overseas to gain more sales back, or else they have to cut jobs. What are you hearing from folks about China?
So I think right now, China is just this, it's a big paradox. People, for so many years, automakers could not get into that market quick enough. And, the rules have changed. For a while, you had to have a JV just to do business over there. And of course, now it's basically a state-funded industry. They've done so much to support the electrification and those types of strategies. Obviously, the Chinese ruling party has really invested heavily in the auto industry, which does put other automakers at a competitive disadvantage. So it's interesting to see how this market's going to play out, where the pricing is going to land, and what these products are going to end up looking like. As an auto guy, I'm very curious to drive one, to be honest.
Well, and it really highlights an element, a complexity of China's governance that most of us in the West aren't familiar with. Obviously, it's one-party rule. It's the Chinese Communist Party. Xi Jinping set the goal, I think it was 15 years ago, to build this EV auto industry where they've really kind of cornered the market on graphite and lithium and LFP technology and all these things that are really helpful for producing cheap EVs. But what they wanted was just that little bit of capitalism to rationalize who the winners and the losers are. But the problem is the regional Chinese parties and the regional banks, they don't want their local automakers to fail. So while the central government might want to have 6 or 8 or 3 national champions, the provinces keep propping up all these dozens of other uncompetitive automakers that lead to this unprofitable and declining industry.
It reminds me a little bit of the German auto industry, perhaps in the second half of the 20th century, where each of the different, municipalities and regions of Germany had, native automakers domestic to them, like Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, et cetera. And the government and the unions very much played active roles on their boards. There was definitely a lot of funding incentives involved, and they had some skin in the game. And at a much smaller scale than what we're seeing in China, and much more hands-off. But, there's some parallels throughout, obviously, history in this kind of approach. It'll be interesting to see how it impacts us here in North America.
For sure, and around the globe. Greg, I want to pivot to another topic. We've been talking here at Autotown a lot about Stellantis and their big investment plans and some of the skepticism around how well it can expand its lineup and still preserve margins.
Yeah.
I think there's a case to be made that a crucial component of this execution, the perceived value of these new models, is going to come down to the interiors.
Yeah.
I know this is something you've been digging in on. What's happening at Stellantis?
So it's interesting. I did a tour of the headquarters last week. It was actually the 30th anniversary of their complex, which was kind of fun. And at the end of the tour, their chief design officer, Ralph Gilles, did a really nice presentation of just how important they view interiors. I drove a Grand Cherokee Summit here today, and I can tell you their interiors are gorgeous right now. Now, it's kind of scattershot. Like a Grand Cherokee Summit is a heck of a lot better than like a base work truck Ram. But I mean, what Gilles basically said, and what I think I've experienced in driving a lot of different vehicles, is that their prices are, they're up there, especially for like the premium and even luxury type vehicles. Their interiors did not match it. There's some kind of spicy quotes from Ralph, which I have a story. It's coming out in Edmonds later in the week. And we talk about this, where he drove an Audi A4 and like, it was like the proverbial plate breaking or window breaking. And he was like, this isn't good. We got to like do
In
better.
case of emergency, break glass. That what you're talking about?
So yeah, exactly. So he's like, they're like, we got to raise our game. And I think they did. I mean, plenty of exceptions still. I drove the Charger recently and was a little underwhelmed.
Okay.
So there's still some work to do there.
I love to hear that about the competitive spirit. I think, so often, I think especially with the Detroit 3, they get in their bubble where they only drive their vehicles or they only drive the other domestic automakers. And look, it's a global market. In most of America, it's a pretty global market where you have at least everybody but the Chinese, fighting for market share. You've got to be able to compete. I was recently in the Dodge Durango SRT. It had the Hemi in it. I was asking about Hemi, and so they've been hooking me up. And I have my thoughts on the Hemi, but one of the things, it's one of my favorite features. They had right, a little down from the prindle, from the shifter, this little pocket, this little bowl, exactly the right size for the key fob.
Oh yeah.
And no matter how hard you hit it, because it accelerates really fast, if I tried having the seat open to let someone walk in, it would slam it back. So like it had plenty of G-force.
Yeah.
It the key stays firmly in that little pocket, so it doesn't waste space in a cup holder or where you want to charge your phone.
Absolutely.
It has its own little spot. And that little spot had a little rubber liner so that when you get the inevitable sand and grit or, Cheerios crumbs, you can just take that liner out, wipe it out good, put it back, and it's good as new. It was so smart and, such a nice touch for someone who's going to drive, this pretty aggressive, not quite a sports car, but really aggressive driving, cross SUV. Give me something that takes care of the key, keeps it out of the cup holder. Really smart little interior design touch.
I tell you what, another great feature of Stellantis interiors is the massages. You might not think so, but the Jeeps are just outstanding. I put them up there with like Mercedes and some of the other luxury brands because you can have a massage feature in an expensive car. Doesn't mean it's good, but Jeep has got it right. So that's a nice little touch.
Absolutely, to see that in a mainstream vehicle. I'm gonna have to explore that in some more of the Jeeps.
Comforting.
Driving. Thanks, Greg. We're gonna take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to stop at the coffee shop for a visit with Damon Lester, the author, speaker, and former dealer principal, after this. Welcome back to Autotown. I'm Jamie Butters with Greg Migliore, the freelance journalist and former editor-in-chief of Autoblog. Okay, Greg, we're stopping at the virtual coffee shop. We're here with Damon Lester, the author, speaker, and former dealer principal. Damon, welcome to Autotown.
Oh, thank you for having me. Good to see you.
It's so good to see you. Damon, I've known you for several years. I'm pretty sure we became acquainted when you were the longtime president of the National Association of Minority Auto Dealers. It was a prominent role and one with a lot of pressure, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, that's when we first met. Yeah, when I was with NAMAD, yes.
Yeah. What was that job like, representing auto dealers, but not being one?
Well, I think that my tenure at NAMAD was one of a lot of good wins, right? I had the opportunity to meet a lot of entrepreneurs and help folks become the entrepreneurs and new car dealers, and all the relationships that I was able to build and garner both from the minority dealer ranks non-minority dealer ranks, both at the federal side, from legislators at both the federal and state side as well. So it was a good journey. It was a good opportunity that I was blessed to be able to be a part of the great organization and to help it grow.
That's interesting. And then after you completed your tenure there, you ran your own store for a while. Can you take us through that experience?
Yeah, you know what? I in 2021, I decided to see what I could do on my own. I wound up going through the NADA Dealer Academy and graduate of the NADA Dealer Academy School, and purchased a Nissan dealership back in 2021 in my neighborhood of Bowie, Maryland, and I was there until 2025.
If I'm thinking right, 2021, the prices on dealerships had kind of ballooned like crazy, right? Profits were super high. There were a lot of deals going on, but at some pretty high prices and pretty challenging to make those work.
Yeah, you know what? The store was doing pretty well, but to your point, that was right after COVID, so all of the blue sky amounts were fairly high during that time. I think I got a pretty good price, but but any prices that's that's high is high, whether you think it's a good deal or not. But yeah, I was blessed to have the store, and we were pretty successful with being the number one Nissan dealership in the state of Maryland for several years.
When you talk about, being just like, ultimate responsibility of being the dealer principal, I've talked to different dealers and there's things they really love about that experience and things they really don't like, whether it's like really getting into the nitty gritty or working with a manufacturer. Can you maybe just point to a couple like highs and just lows, challenges of the overall experience?
You know what? The highs of, if you're a people person, you're a servant leader, that's the high, right? That's the high of being able to be a part of a group of folks that hopefully we all are steering the ship in the same direction. And you tend to win. You tend to win in volume, you tend to win with respective OEM and their targets. And we were blessed to be a Nissan Award of Excellence winner, which is a very difficult award to get within the Nissan family, which is the top 150 dealers in the country. And I was blessed to do that in my year two of eligibility, and so that was a good success. But the people and being around people and helping people grow and meeting customers and to get them in a vehicle that gives them the transportation to and from their work, to and from the little league games, to and from the grocery stores. Those are all good positive sides. The flip side to it is also just the day to day, right? In the day to day, or there's those pressures that as dealers you can't miss, right? And those dealers as a dealer, I would say, you couldn't miss your payments to your floor plan. You couldn't miss your banking covenant payments. You couldn't miss hitting your OEM targets. You couldn't miss being profitable. You couldn't miss, making sure your CSI or your KPI scores were above what the OEM required. And so those things you couldn't miss to put those pressures on you, because it's almost to the point where you have to try to be and strive for a perfect dealership, become a perfect dealer, to employ perfect people, and we all know that those are very hard to come by.
When did you know you were in over your head? When did things really go wrong?
And you know what? It kind of was a trickle down boiling point for me. Um, we were doing well, and once Nissan started to have some of the challenges with the talks of Honda purchasing them, um, with the talks of Nissan going bankrupt or thinking about filing for bankruptcy, it started to really slow down. And then as the inventory levels started to increase, that too was part of my challenge. And the overall economics of being in business that during that time was interest rates were going up compared to when they were at COVID, which was almost at 0%. So all of those things were kind of like the perfect storm for me, that just became a very good it became very challenging for me to really withstand the expense structure and all the demands that was we were still trying to perform at that level.
Curious what you think the climate is like right now for dealers. The cost of entry, quite literally, is challenging for almost anyone. And there's a ton of dealers out there across all the different brands. What do you think just the playing field is like for somebody who's thinking, hey, this is something I might want to do?
Look, it's a good opportunity if you have cash, right? And cash rules everything around me, just like the Wu-Tang can, Sandy. So it is if you are cash, um, have a surplus of cash in this environment, you should win. If you have multiple rooftops that you have that are scalable, you should win. I think with everyone right now, with how this industry is, environment is going with new car valuations, the volatility on the used car side, the overall footprint of AI more prevalent to everything around us. Um, those are some of the things that, a dealer principal or dealer group, all of those factors kind of playing a part on whether you are successful, try to increase your success within your store. Ultimately, it's up to Mr. and Mrs. Customer to have access to credit, to buy a vehicle, to get them to and from. Make sure Mr. and Mrs. Customer have access to a vehicle that is affordable. And those are some of the challenges that really we don't have control over. That's an OEM, but on the used car side, it looks like that's an opportunity for people to have, get an opportunity to get.
Damon, getting back to your story, eventually you lost control of your dealership. What was that like, and how did you get your life back on track?
And look, the most it was the scariest and also most darkest time that I say that I've experienced. I've always been able to be the one that was in control of everything. And during that time, once it started to get away from me, it was very difficult to really see the end of that tunnel. How does this all work out? And I was blessed to be able to sell my store because of the performance of the store. But once it gets away from you, and all of those other external things that we did not have control over, from the Nissan troubles that we're having at corporate level and internationally, as it relates to its viability, all those things play a factor, right? As a single point owner, I couldn't go get a loan, and because they were looking at it as a going concern. On top of all of that, I was a CDK dealer. I lost a ton of money during that whole hacking debacle thing that took place, um, 2025, and so 2024, and so that it was like the perfect storm for me. But I had a mental crash because I was carrying so much pressure because I took, my employees, families, all like they were my own family, right? And I think those are some of the things as being a leader, you take on, whether you like it or not. You're the owner. You ride with the ship, and you pretty much go down with the ship as well. And so, my concern was of course with me personally, but also with my people. I wanted to make sure those folks, um, whoever was able to purchase the store, that they were able to continue to be employed with the dealership, and continue to thrive. And so I think they were all able to have a softer landing and stay with the store, and they're still there now today.
Through your process, you wrote a book, and you're doing some public speaking and sharing your story. I think you have an excerpt for our audience from chapter 41 of your book. If you'd please read that for us.
Yes, thank you. This is from chapter 41, as you just mentioned, and it's called, the Cape was never your identity. It was a season, a survival tool, a symbol of how deeply you cared. But seasons change, so maybe tonight, before you all fall asleep, whisper this to yourself: I'm proud of what I carry, but I don't have to carry it all anymore. Because the world doesn't need another superhero. It just needs you, whole, honest, and finally free.
Damon Lester, author, speaker, and former dealer principal at Bowie Nissan in Maryland. He has some speaking gigs coming up, Veterans in Automotive and the World at Work Total Rewards Conference. The book, Taking the Cape Off, is available on Amazon or through the website, takecapeoff.com. Damon, thank you again for joining us and sharing your story. We look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you. And Jamie, thank you very much, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. For anyone out there who needs to hear it, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is 988. If you need help, please call it. You can do it now. Just press pause and make the call. Everyone else, stick around. We're going to visit the town hall after the break. Welcome back. Greg, I've been thinking about Lincoln. We talked earlier about Stellantis is trying to grow in a mostly flat market by expanding its product range. At the same time, old Lincoln is going from 4 models to 3 with the sell-off of the Corsair down now to the Navigator, Aviator, and Nautilus. So for this week's poll, I'm asking the audience, how would be the best way to spark some excitement at Lincoln? Maybe a rugged but luxury off-roader to challenge the G-Wagon and Land Rover. Maybe a roadster or sports car, right? Ford used to own Jaguar, could kind of fill that gap now that Jaguar has gone so upmarket. Lincoln could lean into the luxury amenities, kind of doubling down on what it's been doing in recent years. Or should Ford just give up on Lincoln and put all its resources into the Blue Oval brand? I don't know. Do you have any immediate thoughts on any of those?
So there's a lot of good ideas there. And I think if you're playing the hits like the Lincoln, the wedding song, Don't Stop Believing, you're thinking of the sedan, right? Or maybe
But that's Journey. That's a Dodge. I'm sorry.
Oh,
there you
that's
go.
true. Well played. Well played. But I think they got to go off-road. It's a burgeoning segment. It's customers like it. You look at the success like brands like Subaru, Honda, Chevy have had with sort of off-road adjacent brands. I think if you're Lincoln, you don't even really want to go adjacent. You want to go all in. I think you got this Bronco chassis, totally redo it and make some sort of Lincoln thing. Now,
Okay, so first I'm going to question that, and then I want you to explain why I'm wrong. So, look, in the pilot episode, I had Sean Tucker from KBB.
Yeah.
We talked about the Lincoln Navigator, and that is, that is the Lincoln brand, right? I mean, and it's a hugely popular vehicle, not as big as the Escalade, but good vehicle, and it really is all about luxury, plush, almost a mobile spa. And it seems like that can be a niche that Lincoln within American luxury can try to carve out. If they try to go off-road, I mean, doesn't that kind of squander all that? But also, okay, so tell me what you think, and also why there's the new Bronco that has everybody thinking about Lincoln in this new Land Rover-y G-Wagon way.
well, let's see the brands that go off-roading: Lexus, Mercedes, Land Rover. The list goes on. Cadillac did that crazy off-road concept a couple years ago, so they're thinking about it. So I think it's just an area where you got to meet the customers where they are. If you want to get younger people interested in Lincoln, off-road like vehicles is where you go. Now, you can't make this like, was it the Lincoln Blackwell, that F-150 that was a Lincoln sort of?
Yeah, it's a rebadged F-150.
Very nice truck, actually. But you can't do that. You got to make it totally different design, have some fun with it. Worst case scenario, it's a new Edsel. Now, granted, that's a really worst case scenario, but I think it's a big risk. And to your point, Jamie, they have 3 vehicles right now.
But there's the new Bronco, what is it, the Filson?
Filson, yeah. And I think that's a good starting point. I think people are that's almost like a red herring. I really think that's more like a modern day Eddie Bauer type of, Explorer Bronco type thing. I think Filson actually fits great for Ford. I think this is something you could do for Lincoln, but again, you got to change the sheet metal. You got to do some different things with the engines. The interior, I think, has got to be rugged, but still somehow have some of that mid-century magic. I don't really know how you do that. I don't have all the answers here for Jim Farley, but I think that would be the template. Do that, and you'll generate buzz, because Lincoln is kind of cool. That's the other thing, is people act like it's this like brand that nobody under like 90 looks at. Not true. I drove a Navigator a few weeks ago. Tons of people I know in their 30s and 40s were like, so how much is that? Then you tell them the sticker, and they're like, okay, so I'm not going to
It's
do it.
pretty high, but it's less than an Escalade typically.
Yeah.
So, and it's a really nice vehicle. So yeah, no, very interesting. What about, I couldn't resist throwing this in because I'm more of a nimble car type of driver.
Yeah.
Could there be a sports car? Could there be a Lincoln Roadster? Wouldn't that be a blast?
Well, they do have this Mustang platform that has one vehicle on it. It seems like you could do something else with it. Lincolns have been about performance in the past. The 63 Lincoln, that's like just an iconic car. I was interviewing some of the folks at Haggerty, and they were like, that is like one of the one vehicles that cuts across generations because it's so like in like, I think the Lincoln Lawyer and mainstream media. So there's some like brand, like, just like interest there that could work.
It
I
would-
would love a Lincoln sports car too.
I think it would be a lot of fun, but sometimes what we want is not what the brand executives get, the decisions they get paid to make.
Fair enough.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everybody, for visiting Autotown today. Greg, thanks for joining me here at M1 Studios. Thanks to Damon Lester for joining us virtually. This show is engineered by Matthew Peach here at M1. Original artwork is by Shelley Trombley. Maya Keener is on social media. Theme song is Bop. It was composed by Jonathan Franco. It includes Hemi engine exhaust notes, so thanks to Stellantis for providing those. Very special thank you to our sponsor, Amovio, a top-tier supplier. If your business is interested in becoming a sponsor, please contact Autotown's executive producer, James Davies. You can be an active citizen of Autotown. Follow the show on LinkedIn to participate in the weekly poll. You can also follow Autotown on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, whatever is your favorite social media platform. Audio can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, more and more fun to come. And of course, every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. on 760 WJR in Detroit. I'm Jamie Butters. Thank you.